Things I hate as a fat person. Number one has to be those little, like, connected chairs at schools. Hello? So many straight-sized people complain about them, too, so. Number two is glasses, because, okay, the frames are never, like, wide enough, and they're always, like, splaying out the little arms. Number three is shopping at the grocery store, because we're all here to get food. But how come I'm the problem here? I just feel like all fat people, when they're going to the grocery store, are just like, people are looking at you and judging you, no matter what you get. If you get fruits and veggies, you're on a diet. If you don't, then that's why you're fat. And fourth is concert seating, because, oh my god, they are the narrowest things. They're, like, narrower than plane seats. They're, like, literally, and they're always, like, at, like, the highest peak. Like, it's, like, almost a 90-degree angle of walking up to sit there. It's, like, are you wanting people to fall down? This is, like, actively discriminatory.
Actively?
The glasses one confuses me. Do you mean sunglasses? Because prescription ones are fitted to your face.
Why would seats be abnormally wide just because some people are?
Can I get a belt extender?
Where are you located?
3A.
I'll bring it.
Okay, thank you.
So what, you waited a little?
The belt is not the problem.
There is another solution.
Was this not a sign?
The only thing bothering me here is that you didn't say please.
Yeah, I don't understand why they don't just make the seatbelts bigger across the board. It's ridiculous.
Wouldn't it be easier to just buy your own and have a guarantee that you'll have one every flight?
This woman has nothing to apologize for. She was polite and patient.
Hi everyone and welcome to my What I Eat in a Day. So for my breakfast I got a McDonald's breakfast. I had a double sausage and egg McMuffin, 2 hash browns and a sour cream and cheddar dip. And then a little bit later on when I was at Paige and Portia's Morris dancing practice, I had a Twix and a cold can of Coke. A Twix extra, should I say, just in case anyone wants to hate on me for that. And then when I got home, I had some tea. Now this was an elite tea, if I do say so. Toast, spaghetti, sausages, and very, very burnt bacon. Don't come at me, that's how I like my bacon. And at the minute, I am loving spaghetti hoops. Call me a 5-year-old, I do not care. Then I had a brownie cake, and it was an Oreo brownie. It was very delicious. I got changed in my pyjamas, and I had some Ferrero Rochers as well whilst I was watching some telly. Love you all.
Understandable that this is a trend, but should we be proud of what we eat?
Easily 6,000 calories she's smashed there, but the enablers will all be. That's a normal amount.
Where's the rest? There's no way there was just that.
Fat is not a body type. Humans are not supposed to be fat. We all have the same skeleton. It's an eating disorder, a food addiction.
Oh god, where to begin? Okay, so first of all, we all have the same skeleton. Okay, so we don't all have the same skeleton. That's why there are height differences in humans, because some people have tall skeletons and some people have short skeletons. Now, if your point, which is what I think you were trying to say, which is that we're actually all made up of the same stuff, and therefore if we're all made up of the same stuff, then there shouldn't be fatness because we should just treat our bodies as they should be treated, you're really neglecting like all of the different nuances that our human bodies have. So like, for example, genetics, right? We're all made of the same stuff. So me and you, we both have eyes, we both have a nose, and we both have a mouth, but they look different. You know why? Genetics, they look different. How our bodies manifest is different. So that genetics can feed into like all sorts of things. It could feed into like, for example, hereditary conditions. It could feed into how fast or slow metabolism is. For example, have you ever met someone who just seems to be able to eat whatever they want and never gain weight? And we always say, gosh, they have a fast metabolism, or they're naturally thin or naturally slender.
What is the caloric difference between a fast and slow metabolism? Vast majority of human race fits inside 200 to 300 kilocalories difference.
Have you ever thought maybe the inverse is true? That maybe some people are born with slow metabolisms and therefore they gain weight super easy and they find it really hard to lose weight. And there might be a term for that. We might call it naturally fat. Okay. There's also like internal organs, like how our internal organs work is different person to person. For example, some people are intolerant or allergic to certain types of food groups, and some people aren't, because all of our bodies are different. And maybe those factors have a influence on how we store, gain, keep, carry weight. So if your point is we're all made of the same stuff, I guess you're right to a certain extent, but how that stuff is all plugged in together is different. And therefore, that's why we have a range of body types and sizes and heights. Like, that's why. It's really not hard to grasp. I hope you've enjoyed my biology lesson.
Even if we accept everything you said, at the end of the day it comes down to what we put in our mouth.
To dumb it down for you, go look at some photos of newborn babies. They're all different sizes.
I do agree with what you're saying, but people have to adapt to each thing their body does. Some have to eat less or more to help themselves.
Genuine question, what about the extremes at both ends? For example, someone who is extremely underweight, is that natural? Not trying to be rude. If you're huge, you gotta have enough money to buy food to get to that size. If you're truly poor, you do not have enough money to feed yourself.
If we were to take this comment at face value, I think most of us can see where it's fundamentally flawed. If this were true, then there would be no poor fat people. But a simple look around reality, the one that we all share, seems to point that that is not the case. That there are fat people of all socioeconomic backgrounds. There are poor fat people, there are middle-class fat people, there are rich fat people. It's almost as though there are other factors that come into play that determine whether or not a person is fat or not than just eating a lot of food. That's the stereotype. And it's the safe stereotype that we all like to believe, because we like to believe that we have control over that. That I could never be as fat as that person because I have self-control and I would never let myself eat that much. Let me just ignore genetics or other factors that may or may not play a part. It's just this. And that's taking that comment at face value. In reality, what this comment is trying to find an excuse to continue to hold an anti-fat bias, to continue to be fat phobic, to continue to make fun of and treat fat people poorly. That's all this is. That is all it is. But even if it wasn't, it's just factually incorrect.
If we're just going by foods making you fat, simple carbohydrates are super cheap, my dude. And those turn to basically sugar in your system. Ask a diabetic.
Very interesting thing one of our subscribers once said, how is eating 3,000 calories cheaper than eating 2,000 calories?
There is a big weight loss trend happening right now, as there kind of always is. So I wanted to hop on and say you don't have to join them. You don't have to join people in shrinking their bodies in pursuit of an arbitrary beauty standard. It's not sustainable, and there are much, much better ways to pursue health than just shrinking your body. And if you are wanting to pursue thinness in pursuit of beauty, really examine and interrogate where these standards come from. A lot of it has rooting in white supremacy, and be really aware of who you're excluding in that pursuit of beauty. Thinness is not the be-all, end-all. It is not an indicator of living a great life. Being fat does not mean you are going to live a bad life, or a life that is in any way less good than a thin person, outside of systemic discrimination. If we continue to fight these biases and fight against these arbitrary standards, they will begin to crumble, and they already have.
Why would someone wish all society be fat?
Yes, size doesn't necessarily correlate with health.
Okay, thank you. I don't like how this video is painting all of these companies out to be bad and to villainize them for not having a product in their store that people are not buying. Now, I will say I'm glad that this creator was respectful to the employees that she was talking to. But the reason these companies are pulling these sizes from their stores or don't have them physically in store is not because the companies are fat phobic or because they have something against people who are overweight. It's because the need for these products is not big enough to warrant buying them in bulk and shipping them to their stores. And while America is getting bigger, the need for sizes above things like XXL represents a very, very small group of people. Their solution, rather than taking a loss, is saying, okay, well, they can order them online. But for some reason, that is not enough. Rather than getting on social media and villainizing companies while victimizing yourself, why don't we talk about the actual solutions to the problem you have encountered? Option 1, order your clothes online. Option 2, wait for Americans to get bigger, because we are, to the point where these companies won't lose money if they carry these sizes in store. Option 3, take a look in the mirror and see how you can develop healthier habits to get yourself out of this situation. None of these options here should include expecting a company to take a loss for you just because you don't like the solutions that were presented. Now look, I know everybody is on their own health journey and it doesn't happen overnight, but playing the victim only stops you from being able to take accountability for the actions that got you here in the first place.
But isn't most of this true?
Everyone has the right to their opinion. Keep doing you. Lol, it's always the dudes who are gym rats that have a problem. Shut up, hit the gym, and mind your business. I've also heard it's the gym rats who prefer the plus-sized partners. Interesting.
Eat him up, Samira. Who is he defending? Mass oppressors.
Let me get rid of all these excuses and find out who the fuck I am.
Surprising fact. Stress can make it harder to fall asleep.
I do agree that there is stigma that I have to deal with because I am fat, but I'm actually really in celebration of my body. I find beauty in diversity. I think we come in all shapes and sizes. And the assumption that we've dealt with a lot on this show is that just because you're obese, you must overeat. You must have an eating disorder. I know that not to be the case. I know you can have a healthy relationship.
Now, Mimi, you say this is misleading. Go have at it a little bit.
Well, I certainly think that we all want to feel good about ourselves. That's understandable. I don't think people should feel demeaned by their size. And I also couldn't agree more with the message of daily exercise. No matter what size you are, you'll certainly benefit from daily exercise. You can't be healthy without that. But then let's talk about where we disagree. Look, if you want to feel good about yourself, it's impossible to feel good about yourself when you're doing something that's self-destructive. Also, self-destructive behaviors that result in damage or debilitation or even disfigurement to the body, that's never going to be perceived as beautiful.
The thing is that I think that the Hayes approach, the health at every size approach, has been documented to work. And it's been documented to work year after year.
What do you mean work? What do you mean work? Because a health at every size is a lie. If you starve yourself into damage, that's unhealthy. Or if you eat yourself into damage, that's not healthy.
You're making a lot of assumptions.
That's just not,
here,
that's not true.
You're making
that's
a
like
lot of
saying,
assumptions
that's like saying
about
that,
weight
let's
being
say you were a smoker. Let's say you're a smoker and have black lungs, and you try to say that's healthy because you don't have cancer yet. We know that it is actually factual that obesity is dangerous, and it's connected to cancer, stroke, Alzheimer's. We even know it's connected to an increase in birth defects. So there's nothing left to debate.
Mimi?
It's not beautiful. It's not healthy.
I think you need to separate the idea of weight from healthy behavior.
Yes.
Now, I have students that when they come to me, when they start my class, they can barely walk from the car to my class. And over the course of a year, I'll take them from that point to working out 3+ hours
There's
per
your class
week.
now.
Right.
I mean, but that's a massive improvement. I mean,
Right.
that's no longer people with medical issues. Those are people you've taken and improved them.
But they haven't necessarily lost a lot of weight. Some of them have lost no weight, and they've had these medical improvements, and they've had these life improvements, these life freedom improvements, without losing weight.
Fat acceptance, the only movement that requires no movement at all.
We come in all shapes and sizes. Me. Laughs in trapezoid.
So glad I was born a pentagon.
Life is like a box of chocolates, it don't last too long for fat people.
Camera guy is like, I'm zoomed out all the way, sorry.
Stop being the fucking parasite. No longer is there a free ride for your ass. Get the fuck out.
Fact. Exercise boosts brain performance.
I actually find this comment funny because the whale was written by a thin person who was fat for a little while, who is clearly absolutely terrified about the prospect of being an adult who is fat and cannot be thin. The entire story of the whale is about the terror and the horror of being fat. People are 100% not afraid of fat people, but afraid of becoming a fat person. And part of that is because they know how they treat fat people, and they don't want to be treated that way. Fat phobia is real, my friend. Look into it.
Put your body in motion. You will remain in motion. Not just in the gym, but outside of the gym. Your mind's in motion. Everything's in motion. And when everything's in motion, what happens? You give birth to new opportunities.
Fun fact. Enjoying some sunshine in the mornings may help you lose weight.
Just a reminder that I am very fat and very sexy. And I am 100% glorifying obesity. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Bro is on his 3rd year of pregnancy.
And there's nothing you can do about it. Heart attack. Let me introduce myself.
Bro's gonna unlock diabetes type 3.
Bad as it feels, there's a fucking hell of a lot better of a feeling than a life where you throw the towel in. That's something you never recover from. When the towel's down in life, there's no morals, man, when you throw it in.
Fact. Adequate sleep reduces your risk of many diseases.
I'm really nervous because this is so random. It's like a little cucumber boat. What ties it all together is the bacon.
Being fit is the only fucking option.
Fun fact. Laughing impacts blood sugar.
Just because I'm fat, that doesn't invalidate the things that I say.
Even for weight loss tips?
Inaccurate opinion, sorry.
When is it ever going to be the ideal situation for you to run your course or start your action or pursue your endeavor? It's never going to be this perfect storm of opportunity for you to say, okay, this is the time. It's never going to broadcast it and highlight it for you. It starts when you put one foot in front of the other.
Fact. Drinking 5 glasses of water may reduce your chance of having a heart attack.
Oh my gosh. I didn't use butter, didn't use oil. I just used water. to cook this. That's just how I prefer.
No water and oil, but you can feed a whole army.
You can do that, man. When you start seeing the future, willing to sacrifice today for that kind of opportunity to mature into a reality, man, you're really thinking the right way.
Fact. Taking deep breaths can improve overall health and circulation.
If you are losing weight because you want to feel better, be in less pain, be healthier, all of these things, that's fatphobic, okay?
So why should I lose weight? To fight Kratos?
The question, the debate inside your head, what could I have been? Could I have been more in life?
Fact. Sugar is as bad for your health as cigarettes.
Diet culture keeps women on a hamster wheel in the attempt to achieve the perfect body, but it doesn't exist, and let me prove it to you. 1950s, Marilyn Monroe's curves were seen as the perfect body, and women were even encouraged to put on weight. Don't put on too much weight, because in the 1960s, thin was in thanks to Twiggy. Then in the 1970s, people wanted to be busty like Farrah Fawcett, but still have that flat stomach. 1980s, year of the supermodel, so we saw women be a little bit more muscular rather than skinny and thin. 8, stop that gym membership, because in the 1990s, thin was definitely back, especially with people saying that nothing tastes as good as skinny feels. Eye roll. Don't get too thin, because in the 2000s we had Britney come out flashing her abs, so we went back to looking a little bit muscular. See the pattern here? Last but not least, 2010s. Everybody wants a bigger butt thanks to Kim Kardashian. Who can keep up?
But no one is fat.
One thing didn't change. Everyone needs a flat stomach.
About more. It's not about the quantity. It's the quality. Just like in the gym, guys, when you're lifting reps and stuff.
Fact. Regular exercise helps you sleep better.
Let's talk about how men treated me while I was fat. I wouldn't fucking know because they didn't interact with me. Here is a picture of me from 4 years ago when I was plus sized. Throughout my entire college career, I was in a plus size body. It's pretty ironic because a lot of people's college years are their hottest years. I think I look fucking amazing all the goddamn time, but to the general public, I was fat, which made me unattractive. Especially to college age men. When I tell you they didn't interact with me, I'm not joking. At that point in my life, I would feel lucky if a man even looked in my direction. Typically, they would just turn their heads and pretend like I didn't exist. Coming of age as a plus-size woman and seeing all of your friends be flirted and hit on by men, and in turn being treated like a second-class citizen, fucked me up. And I think that experience has really impacted how I view my self-worth and dating. I don't know, there's just so much I could say on the subject. Point being, when you're fat, men will not look in your direction until they're fat too.
So force people to like you?
At my heaviest I weighed 230. I swear I got guys easier when I was heavy. Harder now that I'm 133 pounds.
Yeah, life's a marathon. It's not a sprint. There's no quick fix to a long-term situation.
Lack of sleep can kill someone sooner than starvation.
How old were you when you learned, and I've learned this last week, so it's okay if you don't know it yet, but how old were you when you learned that, like, the second boob area here, you know how, like, some fat people have this going on? It's kind of like the boob and the second boob area. That is from sucking in your stomach. Likely all through your childhood and teens. That is from walking around, sucking it in all the time. That's how that happens. That's why that's there on your body. Fuck.
This cannot be right.
Anyone else find it physically uncomfortable to fully relax their stomach muscles? The weight just hanging does not feel good. It's because the muscles are literally scarred into place. It's real and the pain makes sense.
I suck it in but flex the stomach muscles to prevent that.
Obesity fact. China and the US have the highest numbers of obese adults.
That's because fat phobia actually isn't about patriarchy or women. It's about hierarchy. The reason that people, and specifically men, are so threatened by plus-size women, like, literally existing or doing anything or asking for anything, like, for example, not to be treated like absolute shit, is because they cannot handle the disruption of the black and white, good and evil, like moral world that they believe that they live in. Because if one thing is destabilized, everything could be destabilized. And yeah, they probably do genuinely believe that like bad health shouldn't be promoted, whatever. They think that's what they really believe. They think their issue is that they can't stand to see ill health being promoted. But of course, ill health is promoted all the time by literally models who are probably not eating or doing drastic things or having plastic surgery to look skinnier. And they don't have an issue with that. It's the hierarchy. It's the black and white, good and evil of fat people are bad and should be bullied, and we get off on the power trip of bullying them, and they do not want that taken away.
Plastic surgery to look skinnier? Liposuction? What is this comparison?
Explain how men are threatened exactly. Men look through people they don't find attractive, zero extra thought.
They are threatened by us asking for decent treatment and having self-confidence.
Obesity fact. Women are more likely than men to be obese, both in the US and worldwide.
Y'all remember when people got upset that I put 3 scrambled eggs instead of 2 into my breakfast hash that I ate? And people went wild about it? Thin privilege, fat phobia, you're welcome.
But it's obvious that the girl eats this once and just for the camera, while on the other hand.
Okay, but why are you bringing her down while talking about hate?
I'm still thinking about the meltdown everyone had when you fried your lettuce. I regret watching some of her videos, but she literally takes a bite then cuts the video. I never saw her swallow once. What a waste.
Maybe just maybe it's not about egg but results in long term.
People get upset when an alcoholic has 1 glass of wine.
Scientists say getting ample sleep should be a frontline defense in tackling obesity.
So I'm eating my lunch and I just started thinking, if you looked at me and I was eating a salad, you would think like, oh, she wants to lose weight, she wants to be skinny, hot girl summer. If a skinny girl stood here eating a salad, you would think, oh, she's healthy, she probably works out a lot. Yeah, wow. Now, if I stood here eating a cheeseburger, you would immediately think, oh, she does not care about what she looks like. She should care. She definitely should care. Wow, that's so unhealthy. If a skinny girl stood here eating a cheeseburger, you would think, oh, that's so quirky. Aw, cute. I just turned into Myra Rose. Anyways.
But aren't some of these things easy to guess based on appearance? Some, fairly accurately.
So the lesson is, eat whatever you want, people are always gonna complain anyways.
Literally nobody can win.
Don't talk in here. Perform in here. When you perform in here, when you go up there, you don't need to talk, do you?
The more muscle you have, the easier it is to maintain and improve upon your fitness level.
Eating 3 pretty big slices of pizza. Pepperoni. I'm not really a pepperoni girl, but oh well. It's to the point where I kind of have to like force myself to eat right now.
Then why do it?
Scientists have long known that obesity can actually curb one's ability to taste, meaning that it's actually thinner people who may have the ability to enjoy food more intensely.
Today, we're going to dive into how to respond to those questionable comments from family members and loved ones during the holiday season. If anyone says this, do you really think a person your size should be eating that? Then you should say something like, I appreciate your concern, but commenting on someone else's food choices isn't helpful. Let's focus on enjoying the meal together without judgment. If anyone says this, are you sure you want to wear that? It's not very flattering for someone your size. Then you should say something like, I choose my clothing based on what makes me feel comfortable and confident. Commenting on someone else's appearance or suggesting they should hide their figure perpetuates harmful beauty standards. Let's embrace individuality and respect each other's choices when it comes to personal style and expression. If anyone says this, looks like you've gained weight since I last saw you. what happened? Then you should say something like, it's important to remember that bodies change and weight fluctuations are natural. Instead of focusing on appearances, let's celebrate the time we have together and enjoy the holidays. Happy holidays from Big Fig Mattress and I. Let's celebrate togetherness and fat joy this holiday season.
So other opinions don't matter. Obesity fact. The US has the highest level of childhood obesity globally.
Second by second, you lose the opportunity to become the person you want to be. Or you can stop making excuses and take charge of your fucking life.
5 examples of where I was thin but not healthy to prove that thin does not equal healthy, and you can't judge one's health by the size of their body. At this point in my life, I was eating the recommended daily allowance for a toddler. We've talked about this before. That's not healthy. Ah, yes, according to the internet, if you have ab definition, you are the epitome of health. Wrong. For a lot of women, the way to get that ab definition is by eating so little that you lose your period. Again, that's not healthy. Also, according to the internet, all thin people look super happy. Wrong. It was shortly after this photo was taken that actually went back onto antidepressants. Mental health is health. Then, of course, she had to go through her strong, not skinny phase, which actually just meant using exercise as a purging tool. Not a healthy trait. Then of course there are all the bikini photos I took on all of the holidays where I didn't eat any of the local foods because I was that scared of food and my eating disorder was that rife. Such a waste. The point, just because somebody is thin, they're not automatically healthy, and vice versa. Just because somebody is in a larger body doesn't automatically make them unhealthy. You can't judge one's health by the size of their body. But thanks to thin privilege, we always think that thin equals healthy. And it doesn't.
Thin does not equal healthy, but obese equals unhealthy for sure. Also, abs on women is not healthy.
I don't think people are saying thin equals healthy. They're saying fat equals unhealthy.
3,500 calories equals 1 pound. Did you know that there are only 3,500 calories in a pound?
Weird about shrimp. Like, I really am. The texture, not the greatest, but I like the taste, so I eat it in small quantities. It's actually really good. Nice and cold.
Shrimp gate. Eating healthy fat can prevent weight gain.
I think you're too scared to lose weight. In less than 60 seconds, I'm going to try and help you view these struggles in a completely new way. And it's not even that you should lose weight. By the way, I'm Bobby. I believe in you a silly amount, so go follow me on Instagram, so we may as well talk about it. So on the one hand, consciously, you know what you want for yourself, yeah? Peace, fulfillment, confidence. That's what you try and choose for yourself. But that choice is a bit more difficult when the version of yourself that you are trying to get away from is the version of yourself who has saved you up until this point. The version of yourself who has always been there when nobody else was. That's what sabotage is. It's not laziness or a lack of willpower. It's the fear of not knowing how we are going to survive without that little friend within us who was just trying to help this whole time.
Positive message. But why should it be so complicated? Why do we need to philosophize around weight loss?
I'm trying to lose weight, but the other self says eat the damn cake. For all I know, you may die tomorrow.
What is this now? Reverse psychology with us? Is it working?
Muscle weighs more than fat. So the more muscle you build, the easier it would become for you to burn calories and maintain your weight.
I ordered a thing of fries, and I only ordered one, but for some reason they gave me 2. I will not be eating this.
She actually ordered 3, but they forgot 1.
Obesity fact. Individuals who are obese miss 56% more work than people with a healthy weight.
Styling my stomach because apparently a lot of people don't know that different body types do exist.
There's this mentality that if you don't have a flat stomach, then you can't or shouldn't show it off, and that you have to try to hide it as much as possible, and I just do not fuck with that. Like, I'm gonna style it, I'm gonna show it off, I'm gonna give it the love it deserves because this is my body and I deserve that. A lot of people body shame me and try to make me feel inferior, but different body types do exist and none of them are something to be ashamed of. I'm always gonna wear what makes me feel good.
Not hiding it is one thing, but intentionally emphasizing it isn't strange.
That's grand, but I just want to point out it's not a body type. You're choosing to be this way, which is fine but not natural.
Well, you'd probably be ashamed of the body you got from binging a lot and stuff, but go off IG.
Ha 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 ha, no no no. Showing your butt-cracked stomach isn't styling it.
Obesity fact. The extra weight of obesity costs airlines $275 million per year.
Ah, the incels have found my video. I said the word dating and fat in the same sentence and they've all come to tell me. Have I thought of just not being fat? Have I thought of trying that? I'm gonna give you the real honest answer in good faith. There's a few of them, but what it boils down to is it's not worth it. Contrary to popular belief, being fat actually doesn't mean that I have never thought of dieting. It's never occurred to me. No, I went on my first diet when I was 10 years old and I was on a diet pretty much solidly, constantly for the next 12 years. Never did my weight change drastically unless I was starving myself or doing restriction extreme enough that my period stopped. I don't know what you know about health, but it's actually not healthy. You're actually supposed to have a period if you have a uterus. Like that's something that's supposed to happen. So instead of trying to make myself skinny so that people would like me, I decided that I was going to focus on myself and do things that make me feel good. Because when I stopped eating, I couldn't think, and I am a master's student, so I do need to think on the daily. I also had no energy to exercise, and I had all-consuming thoughts of food all the time. So instead, what I do now of eating a balanced diet and eating enough to function is I function. I have been through the ringer, I have done every diet you could name, and I have come out the other side knowing that in order to have a happy life, I have to do something that's more balanced and sustainable. And unfortunately, my genetics and my medical conditions and things like that mean that doing that, I'm going to be fat. And it's not worth it to me to go through what I went through and put myself through for 12 years so that people like you will want to have sex with me more, especially when I already have a pretty happy life, relationship, and friendships. If it was that easy to be thin, we would all be thin by now, because you'd have to be crazy to want to be fat. But if you really want to help, you can Venmo me for a gym membership.
So you want to say that you don't want to be fat? Such a fat phobic, and no one says being thin is easy, but it's worth it. Wow, I can't believe we've found the one woman who disproves the laws of thermodynamics.
Okay, so you know losing weight only works with sustainable but can't do that, so you're happy getting fatter cause you won't stay same or lose Sue. I go to the gym and see literally disabled pregnant women in there, but the fat girlies with 2 legs and arms always have medical limitations.
Obesity fact. Different ethnic groups have differing rates of obesity.
Resemblance is uncanny.
Obesity fact. 1 in 5 deaths since 2013 have been due in part to obesity. What is this logic? It's meant in general. There will always be exceptions. Obesity fact. Shocking. Obesity now affects our pets too.
For the millionth fucking time, existing as a fat person is not promoting obesity. Loving your body and being confident about your body is also not promoting obesity. So fuck off.
Golly, having access to all that food kind of makes you privileged.
Obesity fact. Snacking started after World War II and is now one of the biggest causes of obesity.
Kinda wish I was that ribbed.
Time for meat.
Obesity fact. Hunger pangs are in the mind and not the stomach.
Welcome to FaceTime for the Fats, a series where I, a fat, talk about things that only plus-size people will understand. I just went to the gym, and while I was there, I was finally able to verbally articulate a feeling that I have felt in spaces just with other humans around in general, especially ones that include movement, for the first time in my life. So today was a lifting day, I was doing some deadlifts, and I noticed myself being very, on edge, in the sense where I felt myself building up a wall around me, emotionally. And my eyes were on other people like a hawk, making sure they weren't looking at me. And that if they were, I would be on the defense already, being like, you can't touch me, I already see you, sort of thing. And I had to stop myself, and I was like, what are we doing this for? Where is this coming from? Because not a single soul was looking at me, not one. Everyone was minding their own business, which is honestly why I like the gym that I go to, because everyone truly does mind their own goddamn business. And I had to be so gentle with myself in that moment, because I was like, Deanna, you have been subjected to stares, to laughs, to mockery of your body, and if not your body, the body of someone else who looks similar to you, for your entire fucking life. Of course it makes sense when you're doing something that, especially for someone in a larger body, can be very vulnerable, such as going to the gym, that you're gonna be on guard, fight or flight, trying to protect yourself, even when in the moment there isn't really a threat. And once again, these boys, the people around me, they were not doing a thing. They were just working out.
Why do you all say, larger bodies, instead of fat or obese?
And so all this to say, this was a wonderful reminder for me that while, yes, it is important to have a sense of self that keeps you safe and secure from genuine, real fatphobic threats, it's also equally as important to recognize that you have been through so much already. And if you are still fat, that you probably continue to go through things like this at one point or another, and that in the long run, you're not doing yourself any favors by sitting and stewing in that place of hypervigilance. And I'll be the first one to say that is so much easier said than done, because look what I just told you. It happened to me today. Not to mention other factors that play into trauma and whatnot. There's a lot of nuance that can't be discussed right here in one little TikTok. But you are so worthy of being able to let your guard down. You are worthy of moving through the world with ease. And you are worthy of peace. Just as you are.
You are so eloquently spoken. You are worthy of ease, just wow. Yes. My therapist told me if you don't have a positive experience with movement before age 11, you will always feel anxious during.
Obesity fact. Only 2% of kids in the US eat healthy.
Reviews are coming in for the new Wonka movie, and you know I had to talk about it because I saw the trailer, and of course, they had a fat suit in the film. I'm not going to show a picture of it because I don't need that in my life, but Keegan-Michael Key wears a fat suit in the film. And of the reviews that I have read so far, it seems to be the worst part of the film, because of course it is. Keegan-Michael Key is a phenomenal comedian and actor, and wearing a fat suit to do fat jokes is frankly beneath him. I don't know what his contract said, I don't know what he agreed to, I don't know if it was his choice, but it saddens me a little bit that he agreed to wear the damn thing at all. Do you think, though, that this movie is finally going to be the movie where we realize as a culture that, number one, fat suits are completely unnecessary. We never need to use another fat suit ever again. And number two, they're just not funny. Do you think we'll actually reach that point with this movie? Or it's going to be like another dozen or two before we actually get to the point where we take all the fat suits and we just throw them on a fire? Because I want to be there. I would like to be there now. Thank you.
If you just spend all this energy into losing weight.
I wouldn't say fat suits are completely unnecessary. I mean, a single character can go from fat to skinny or vice versa within the span of a movie.
Nothing about the fat suit in Endgame was necessary.
Why does he need to be fat? Do they not know how to show depression without one? It was entirely for the jokes.
Obesity is preventable.
So this is a very interesting comment left on one of my videos where I showed 5 examples of where I was thin, but I definitely was not healthy. But thanks to mass media, social media, BMI, insurance companies, irresponsible fitness influencers, we are always sold this idea that somebody in a larger body is unhealthy. Even though you really can't judge one's health by the size of their body. But thanks to thin privilege, we automatically think that somebody in a larger body is unhealthy, and that's fat phobic and not true.
You cannot judge, but you can have somewhat of an accurate guess. And why would someone preach fat acceptance, especially if they are not fat, never have been?
Fat doesn't mean unhealthy, it means higher risk.
Grendel, I've got some weight to me, but I bet I can deadlift and lift more weight than you.
The estimated annual medical cost of obesity in the United States was nearly $173 billion in 2019.
Oh, how many do I have to do? How many do you have to fucking do? Why do you have to ask such a stupid question? As many as it's gonna take to transform that fat ass you're fucking carrying around.
Let's talk about body size diversity in the Barbie movie. The entire movie, I was like so emotional the second Sharon Rooney came on screen. Because how incredible is it as a little kid to see somebody who looks like you on TV when you usually never ever ever do, especially coming from a brand that is so famously cookie cutter about bodies. As a fat kid growing up in the 2000s, pretty much all my Barbies looked like this. And one of the first things I ever heard about Barbie as a brand was that Barbie promoted unrealistic beauty standards. People around me, my parents, my friends said all the time that Barbie's proportions were not physically possible unless you had surgery. And I remember that being like the first thing I ever learned about Barbie. Like, I knew from day one that I was not a part of this brand. It was not for me. It was not for people who looked like me. And so to see somebody who literally looks like me in this movie was just blew me away. I knew it was coming, but it still blew me away. Sharon Rooney's character was Lawyer Barbie. Her size was never made into a thing. Although they do make this curvy version of Barbie that's basically slim thick, and they call it Barbie Fashionista, she wasn't Barbie Fashionista. She was just part of the universe. She had a job. And her body type is also not this. Now, I do have some questions about or criticisms of how size was portrayed in the Barbie movie, which I will discuss in another video. But for now, I just wanted to take a second to say how much this little girl needed to see somebody who looked like her on screen as part of the group, as one of the cool girls, and never got to, but I got to. And a lot of other little girls who look like me are getting to, and that's really freaking amazing.
How and why would someone notice something like this in a movie?
Seriously, I was on the verge of tears every time she was on screen. Okay, but why did they dress her so conservatively in comparison to all the other Barbies?
Washington, D.C., has the lowest rate of obesity, at just 24.7%. This is followed by Hawaii and Colorado at 25% and 25.1%, respectively.
You are what you repeatedly do every day. So whatever you're doing is what you become. If excellence is something you're striving for, then it's not an accident, it's a habit.
Whether in the past, the present, or even an alternate universe, it was always clear that Monica and Chandler were...
Respectfully, no. I was very saddened to hear of Matthew Perry's passing, and this has nothing to do with that. But this is not the take on Monica and Chandler's relationship and how it evolved from the past to present to future of Friends. Let us remember that when Monica and Chandler meet in high school and Monica's fat, Chandler is like absolutely disgusted by her and is talking to Ross about how much he thinks she's gross. Monica then loses all this weight to spite him, knowing he'll want to get with her the next year when he sees that she's skinny now. And so she literally does that to spite him. We know from the beginning that Chandler's love and interest and attraction to Monica is all conditional on her body size. And so unless we live in this fantasy friends universe where nobody ever gains weight back and it's easy to lose and keep off forever, their relationship is going to be conditional on her staying skinny. And I'm sorry, but like, that's not true love. That's not meant to be. She was meant to be the whole time when he was insulting her. And by the way, When she got skinny, he didn't stop insulting the fat version of her. He was always making jokes about it in all the episodes where they showed like home videos from when Monica was fat. Chandler and all the friends would make fun of Monica, while Monica obviously had a lot of compassion for her younger self and was obviously saddened by it. I don't necessarily think that like Chandler and Monica's relationship is never good or never healthy, because it is very sweet in the later seasons if you take it out of context of how they met. But to specifically say like the past of him insulting her was incredibly romantic and was bringing them together, absolutely not. And yes, in the alternate universe episode, she does lose her virginity to him at 30 because, as we all know, fat people never have sex in their 20s. Because how would we even find someone unless they were meant to be? I mean, I guess it's great that he could see past her body in the alternate universe episode, but that doesn't erase the fact that the past happened or that he didn't apologize for it. When Chandler finally acknowledges what he's done to Monica, because of course he didn't remember how he treated an inconsequential fat person. His exact words are, "I can't believe I called you fat, but come on, I was an idiot back then." Not an apology. Does not make it right. All this to say, I don't know that we should hold up Chandler and Monica's relationship as past, present, and future goals. Because when your first meeting with somebody is that they were making fun of your body and they did not look at you romantically until your body changed, I'm sorry, but that is a bad foundation for a relationship.
And Monica is fat-phobic for losing the weight, and the whole show is fat-phobic because of it, and all Friends fans are fat-phobic.
Where is your conscience? To literally go after someone who passed away. Because of his character's personal arch? Like, way to make everything about you. Motivation is a great thing to change your life. Also, it's a sitcom, get a life.
It's estimated that a little over 42% of American adults have obesity, while about 30.7% are overweight. Overall, more than 2/3 of U.S. adults in the United States are overweight or have obesity.
Oh my god, thank you so much for realizing that I, in fact, do live in my own world, and that means that you can leave and get the fuck out and never come back again. Goodbye! You're so smart.
What world is that? Eating foods high in refined starch and sugar can raise your insulin, which can make you hungrier, causing you to eat more.
Differential is somebody just breathing life, and the other one taking the most of the opportunity and time of life.
I need to sit down. You guys, I'm exhausted. I'm not gonna lie.
Too much health is exhausting. Overweight and obesity together make up one of the leading preventable causes of death in the U.S.
Why do you keep eating when you know it's not in your best interests? Why can other people do it? Why can't I do it, right? I'll tell you why. Because your story is different. But you want the honest truth behind that again? It just doesn't matter. It's a legitimate fucking reason for you to struggle. Of course it is, but it doesn't matter. All it does is repeatedly justify to yourself why you're not enough, instead of allowing you to find the reasons why you are.
Or simply willpower? Too little sleep may contribute to weight gain. People who sleep fewer than 5 hours a night are more likely to become obese than people who get 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night.
The more shit you throw against the wall, something will eventually stick.
Comment on your body don't actually care about your health, or they wouldn't say shit like that. If you've ever had the misfortune of being on the receiving end of a "I'm just concerned about your health," you know how uncomfortable that made you. Defensive, irritable. It was not a good experience. Because that shit is manipulative. Because if I have any reaction that's not appreciative or apologetic for the way that my body looks, I'm unreasonable. I'm overreacting. But I just love you so much that I care. You love me so much that you're like, I'm worried you're gonna die. Surely this will have no effect on my mental health at all. And I'm sure that a lot of people that say it, it's not coming from a place of malice, but it is coming from a place of stigma, and shame. And science has shown you literally cannot shame someone into lifelong behavioral change. You might see temporary changes, but the reality is self-hatred and health cannot coexist in your body. Think what you want, but you can keep it to yourself.
I'm concerned for your health too, and I promise if you say that shit to me again, you'll be at greater risk of death than I will for being fat.
Timing and empathy are two key factors when attempting to have a conversation.
You know what? I'm gonna try a little piece of this. I don't like it. That's a no for me. Oh god. That is like one of the grossest things I've ever tasted. It literally tasted like poison. Like chemicals. It tasted like straight up chemicals.
Too much drama after eating all the other processed stuff. There is no doubt that processed meat contains many harmful chemicals that are not present in fresh meat.
Doing the same thing, expecting a different result doesn't work that way. You must switch up the mainframe. Switch it up if you want a different result, man.
Many of those who are comfortable making fat jokes don't really view fat people as people. That's not really what I mean, but let me see if I can explain. People who are comfortable making fat jokes don't imagine that there are fat people who exist who don't desperately want to be thin. Does that make sense? A comedian can claim that they don't make jokes at other people's expense while making fat jokes because it just never occurred to them that a fat person could be happy while also being fat. If you're fat, you have to desperately want to not be fat. And that's what makes it okay to make fun of them, because nobody wants to be that way, so of course it's fine to make fun of it, right? At least that's my theory, and it's a shitty justification, but it is a justification.
You emphasize the word, desperately. If you were fat and happy, you wouldn't bother with things like this.
People who make fat jokes view being overweight as a moral failing, and thus, feel justified shaming them.
Okay, so I'm nervous. Okay. I was gonna get like a side salad, so I can get full off of that. They don't have salads there.
You guys just don't understand nutrition like her.
As a personal trainer, here's how you cut carbs. To basically
Bravo.
It's perfectly okay to cut down on or cut out carbs if you are getting enough calories every day.
Hold on. Water is to die for, literally.
What's with the water and fat people?
Most people quit because they focus on how far to go still, never realizing how far they've already come.
A low-carb diet has been associated with improved blood sugar control and insulin sensitivity.
Is it an addiction? Is it an addiction? No, I don't think it's an addiction. I think it does put me, it makes me happy. But no, it's not an addiction.
I don't trust anyone who isn't a foodie, to be honest.
10 examples of fat phobia in TV and film. Monica in Friends. Constantly depicted as eating like that's all people in larger bodies do. It's not. Fat Amy in Pitch Perfect. The name alone is fat phobia personified. Gwyneth Paltrow's character in Shallow Hal. The guy is literally hypnotized in order to fall in love with somebody in a larger body. This alone speaks for itself. Samantha's character in the Sex and the City film. Called out for having a gut, but newsflash, we all have guts. Bridget Jones's Diary, a film that literally encouraged women to hate their bodies and be fearful of dying fat and alone. It's not just female characters though, we've got the nutty professor. The guy went to extreme lengths in order to be slim, what, in order to be deserving of love? This is an obvious one, Khloe Kardashian's revenge body. The entire show depicts that only those in thin bodies are desirable. Going back in the archives, we've got Jan from Greece. Firstly, she's not actually plus size. Secondly, she is also always depicted as eating. Do we see a pattern here? A really problematic one. Last but not least, the cousin in Harry Potter. Depicted as eating cake, then given a pigtail. Can we see the fat phobia here?
Does anyone think noticing stuff like this became a trend? This was not a thing years ago. It's just a movie.
Thor in Endgame was so infuriating, making fun of his mental health and coping and making his appearance the butt of jokes when he was depressed.
Much like I pay attention to my body, okay? I do. I know a lot of people like to think that I don't, but I'm smart. I have a dietitian, y'all. I gave my nuggets the platform they deserve. Also, individual mac and cheese and individual mashed potatoes and gravy, and we have a cookie.
By restricting the intake of carbohydrates, the body is prompted to burn stored fat for energy, leading to a reduction in overall body fat.
3 celebrities that are really dangerous to the health and fitness industry. This is not an exhaustive list. There are more. Number 1, we have Jillian Michaels. Yes, she's a personal trainer in her own right, but she's kind of become more of a celebrity household name. Ignoring all of her problematic ways on The Biggest Loser, that's a whole separate video. She also told women that they should eat the recommended daily allowance for a toddler. No. She also makes me mildly mortified to admit I'm a personal trainer that's also a lesbian. Thanks, Gillian. Number 2, we have Rob Lowe, the newest face of the Atkins diet, which if you're a young person, basically the predecessor to the keto diet. Anyone that's pushing this idea of low carb, low sugar, etc. is really flipping dangerous. Number 3, last but definitely not least, Gwyneth Paltrow. Listen, I've got a list as long as my arm of problematic things that Gwyneth Paltrow does with her Goop brand, lifestyle, wellness, fitness, etc. But with regards to health and fitness, she talks a lot about banishing cellulite, clean eating, demonizing certain food types, etc., etc. Please, Gwyneth, I beg of you, just go back to acting. You were really quite good.
And Tess Holliday is not on the list? Or any other fat activist? A low-carbohydrate diet can offer a range of benefits, including weight loss, improved blood sugar control, enhanced cardiovascular health, and potential cognitive advantages.
You know what I noticed? When I drink, I lose weight the next day. Can someone talk to me about that, please? Because I know I have a lot of doctors and dietitians and such, and I know a lot of biologists follow me. So why do I lose weight when I drink? This happens every single time. I literally lose weight. I'll lose a few pounds. I tried Googling it, actually.
Don't entertain her. She's been in denial over her weight for years, making up excuses for why she isn't losing weight.
Fat people should never eat fast food is the most ridiculous fat-phobic lie. I went and got Taco Bell. But if I post about it in a fat body, that's bad. But thin people posting about it, great, let's do a big haul. I am not the only person who went to Taco Bell today. There were other people in line. Some people are allowed to enjoy fast food and others are not. And that's based solely on body size.
But what is this comparison? You ate your share of fast food for your life. Let thin people try it from time to time.
It's okay for some people to post food content, but a fat person does it and suddenly it's why we're fat. You cannot look at someone's body and tell how often they eat fast food or not. And it's not your place to judge someone who is eating fast food, for whatever reason. And I'm posting that I got fast food to try to change the narrative. We shouldn't be scared to post food content. I got some delicious bean and rice burritos and a nice Baja. Let's all mind our own business with the food that we eat and move along with our day.
Probably because you buy it 5 times a week.
The difference is that thin people are not one burger away from a heart attack.
I have had Taco Bell every Thursday for over a year and I've lost 135 pounds.
Fat phobia isn't real.
A lot of you literally brag about how you'd rather be dead than be fat. Nobody's scared of fat people. Phobia means fear. Why do you guys cry like little babies then whenever you see a fat person just existing? Honestly, our impact, like, you hate us, but we stay in that mind. We stay in that noggin.
Yes, you are my hobby. Watching fat TikToks is the best.
Fat phobia is good.
Not for people that can't help it though.
Being scared of being unhealthy and dying at 35 isn't fat phobia. I was 114 kilograms, there's nothing beautiful.
Girl, in the end of the day, I ain't glorifying sickness, fat or skinny. Just try and be healthy.
In all seriousness though, like, do not make comments like this to people. I know that you're like tagging your friend and like you aren't thinking about the creator who is like reading this comment, but this shit, it damages people psychologically. Clearly. Comments like this do not incentivize people to take care of their bodies because they make people believe that they are too far gone and that our lives are not worth fighting for. Comments and mentalities like this are why fat people like don't go to the doctor. This mentality is ingrained in us from a very young age before we even have the critical thinking skills to question what this type of language like really means and where it comes from and what assumptions lie within it. You can be fat and live a very long, healthy, happy life, just as you can be thin and die young. You are making this comment about a human being who will inevitably read that comment. Never forget that your words have impact.
No, but wait, negative comments make you not want to change. Positive comments make you not want to change. You will not change anyhow, regardless of comments, health, etc. Is there something that will motivate you to change?
These commenters also don't even realize they're hurting themselves too. Being surrounded with that sort of language every day, I can't imagine what.
And being fat doesn't mean an early death. I hope you're old AF, happy and wealthy when it's your time. Medically and scientifically it does though. Being 500 plus pounds means your organs will give out much faster due to strain.
Do you not think that the people who are that weight understand the risks commonly associated with that? If knowing the truth hurts people psychologically, excessive weight can also hurt people physically. What's your point?
Hope someday you can find true happiness in yourself.
As a big girl, I wouldn't show my body like that, but if you're comfortable with it, then you go, girl. Now, I don't understand what the point of this comment is. Are you just trying to project your own insecurity onto me? Like, are you just trying to make me think, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that? Or are you just jealous? Or is this like a backhanded compliment? Like, what is happening here? Because like, I used to not show my body like that. I didn't show my body like that until I was actually bigger. But when I wouldn't do that, I didn't tell people, I didn't announce it to people because it wasn't other people's issue. Now, on the other hand, I do hope that you can get to a point where you're confident enough to do that, but I don't think that it's beneficial for me to know that about you because, no offense, I don't care.
Confidence is one thing. Madness is another.
You go, girl, is all that's necessary. Otherwise, shut it.
I'm going to FatCon in Seattle, Washington, January 5th through 7th, and I want to see you there. FatCon is a 3-day fat liberation celebration, y'all. We will be celebrating fat liberation, body acceptance, and the power of being in fat community. With over 60 hours of programming spanning from policy, legislation, healthcare, community, and visual arts, plus a ton more, this is sure to be something you don't want to miss. The vibes are going to be immaculate. With a fat brunch, a fat fashion show, and a fat vendor marketplace, there is so much to do. Plus, there's some really cool experiences you can sign up for, like some fat liberation photo shoots and some incredible shopping experiences with 2 big blondes. Being in fat community with other fat people who just accept you for who you are and get it is such a great experience, and I want every single person watching this to be able to have that experience with us. Ticket sales for the FatCon are going to be ending very soon. You can go to the link in my bio and use code JBAE to save 25% on your tickets. I hope to see each and every one of you at the FatCon in Seattle, Washington, January 5th through 7th.
OMG, I wanna go.
I wish I could go.
I have been told that by simply just existing, I may encourage children to believe that it's okay to be fat, which is unhealthy. Or I may influence someone to get fat or stay fat. And I would just love to ask my fellow fat people, like, who was it who encouraged you to be fat when you were a kid? Or has influenced you to stay fat now you're an adult? No one? Same here. Funny that, isn't it? The argument between influencing and representation is fascinating because 100% representation matters. I will always, always, always advocate for representation of all body types, body shapes, body sizes, every type of body to be represented on our screens because it helps normalize those bodies. If we normalize more body types, then there is no opportunity to other those body types. And especially in media, we like to demonize the other. So if we stop marginalising them, then that opportunity to demonise and vilify becomes less and less. I hope that makes sense. However, the moral panic argument against representation is that if we allow those different types of body sizes, we could be encouraging the viewer to think that that is okay, which of course it is. And the argument against that argument, because it's a moral panic, right? It's a moral panic. If we show more fat people on screen, then people think it's okay to be fat. But we've been showing thin people forever and a day. I grew up in the 90s and noughties. All I saw was thin people. And funnily enough, that didn't make me thin. What it made me feel was that I was wrong because no matter how much I tried, no matter how much I exercised, no matter how much I was, having a negative self-talk because all I saw was thin people on my screen. All I saw was the fat characters be bullied or be bullied on screen, right? All I kept thinking is, I can't be like that, I can't be like that. And I tried so hard to be a thinner child. And I couldn't do it because I was naturally not a thin child. Naturally, I was not a thin child. So it really messed with my self-worth because all I saw on my screen were thin people being the heroes and fat people being the victims and the bullies. And I was still fat. So, but interestingly, the moral panic doesn't work that way. So the argument is, oh, well, if we allow more bigger people on screen, then then people think it's okay to be fat. So, but then do you think the other is true? Do you think that if we allow more thin people on screen, that there would be more thin people because...
No, but wait, you changed the narrative.
Oh, well, if we allow more bigger people on screen, then then people think it's okay to be fat. That if we allow more thin people on screen, that there would be more thin people because that's what's been happening and that isn't happening. It's the same argument with people who are against seeing gay relationships on screen. People will go, well, if you have gay relationships on screen, then people will think it's okay to be gay and blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, but we've been watching straight relationships forever and a day and not everyone is straight. So how can you believe that the power influence is so strong one way, which is the marginalised and other way representation, but you don't believe it works the same for the norm? A representation helps us all. It allows us to evolve past judging people by their covers, which is something we learn at primary school, and yet apparently we don't bring that through into the media we watch. And to the point where we create ridiculous moral panics and vilify people just for existing because they see it as inherently bad, just because you view my body as inherently bad. But again, going back to that judging book by its cover, you shouldn't be judging me because of my body. You should be judging me by what I say, by my actions. Or you know what? You could maybe not judge me, but I'm a realist at the same time. We're all going to judge. That's what we do.
We are judging your content. Why not make videos about something else?
My genetics influenced the shit out of me to get fat and stay fat, baby.
Oh, them genetics be genetic-ing.
No one encouraged me. Body positive people have taught me to stop fighting with my body after 36 years.
This is how it feels when you first come onto the internet as a fat person. Like... No, really, you don't understand it. if you haven't been through it. There is a learning curve of just learning how to incorporate harassment and abuse into your everyday life, and it's hard. There's a lot of tears, there's a lot of sadness, but it gets better. You learn how to deal with it, you learn how not to personalize it, you learn that it's all about them and not really about you.
Don't you think that people are just triggered by the misinformation you spread? Just change subject. Don't be all about, fat is okay.
But this is the phase you have to go through. This phase of just tears, this phase of sadness, this phase of hurting, this phase of everything sucks, everyone hates me, and then you realize they just hate themselves. And once you reach that moment, once you reach that understanding, it's so freeing.
The reason that you hate your body when you see photos of yourself, or that you hyperfixate on a part of your body when you're looking at a photo, is not actually because of your body. What we know about emotions is that emotion will only last about 90 seconds to 3 minutes. So if you're looking at a photo and it is causing you constant distress, what that tells us is that there is not just an emotion happening, there is a story, an underlying wound that has not been healed. So here's why I think we get stuck around photos. The reason I think we get stuck around photos is because we don't actually spend a lot of time looking at ourselves in photos. A lot of times, photos used to be the way that we would measure our failure or success when it came to dieting. So I think a lot of us are disconnected to what we actually look like in photos because we used to spend so much time looking and comparing and contrasting to now we just don't. And so it's a new thing. So one reason could be you're just not used to taking photos of yourself. The reason that photos can distress us is if we have other body image wounds going on and we are not paying attention to them, it is one way that it will just break through the surface. So if you imagine your body image a little bit like a beach ball and holding that beach ball underwater, a lot of times we can sort of just avoid the distress around our bodies. But then we see ourselves in pictures, or we have these experiences where it's forced, the beach ball is forced up, and we have no choice but to deal with it. The reason why photos accost us is because of what we are expecting to see when we look at the photos. I know that a lot of times when I would look at a photo and I would expect to see my smaller, thinner, more disordered self, I was then accosted when I was in a bigger body. Whereas now I know what to expect when I look at a photo because I'm not expecting to see something that's not there. I know that if I go into a photo with my hair and makeup done, I'm going to see more of like a model shoot than if I'm going on my camera right now without makeup, without my hair done. And so I think really it comes down to the expectation of what you are looking for when you're taking the photo. And then to that internalized anti-fat bias of what judgment is coming up around how I take said photo. I work with clients on making peace with photos. One of the things I'll encourage them to do is break the photos up into 3 parts. 1 is the preparation of taking the photo, 2, taking the photo, and 3, looking at the photos. So if you know you're going into the holiday season, wanting to take photos, wanting to be part of the memories, 1, mentally prepare for getting in the photos. That's the first thing that you're going to do. What does that look like? How can you mitigate distress? For me, that might look like wearing makeup, getting my hair done, falling into the westernized beauty standard because I know it will mitigate the distress of seeing my body in photos later on. The second thing is when you're taking the photos and being present is not thinking about what they're going to look like and allowing yourself and giving yourself permission not to look at the photos right away.
Also, losing weight or Photoshop can help.
When I stopped viewing myself from a man's perspective and started loving my body from my perspective. Diet culture also contributed to my self-esteem.
Southwest Airlines has been in the news lately for its customer of size policy, but what is it and how can it help plus size people? Essentially, the policy allows you to get a second seat for free if you don't comfortably fit into one. You can either book the ticket in advance, which means you have to pay for it and then you're refunded once you land, or you can take your chances and you can ask at the desk. Asking when you check in is a little bit risky, of course, but all you need to do is say, I'd like to utilise the customer of size policy, and they'll help you out. For this method, you don't need to refund your ticket as they won't charge you. So Southwest is a little bit different to the UK and you don't have allocated seats. This means as you board the plane, you choose your seat there and then. When using the customer of size policy, Southwest do recommend that you board early so you can pick the seat that's best for you. I've heard the back row is a no-go. It's not really the best method, but the way to keep your seat free next to you is sit your little reserved seating ticket next to you, and then no one will sit there. If you get a window seat, I've heard it's much easier to do this. If you did purchase your ticket in advance, all you need to do is wait until you land and then you can apply for a refund. All the information on how to do this is on Southwest's website. I absolutely love this policy and I think it's a great solution. We don't have anything like it in the UK, but I'm hoping with all of this extra coverage, people start to consider it as an option.
How does the airline decide you should have this option? Do they weigh you, measure your body, make you sit to check the room left in the other seat?
No, you choose if you need it and tell them.
Can they refuse this though? Someone a size 14 might want this option, also someone size 28. Are there criteria in place to make it clear for customers?
What happens when the flight is up to capacity and some poor person has to lose their seat because of this?